All right, welcome back on Africa Business Radio. It's time for us to get into the News Express segment on the show this morning, of course, brought to you by Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. We'll be taking a look at the headlines topping the pages this morning. And I'd like to start with the cover page of Business AM. All right, revealed Nigeria among countries most skeptical about 5G technology. And we also have the US topping the list. They are the world's most skeptical country. We have the UK and Australia too on that list. And just below that headline, Nigeria's reserves down $1.38 billion in 30 days amid rising oil prices. It has fallen by $511.3 million since the start of 2021, but oil price averaging $58 per barrel, and that's above the full year 2021 budget benchmark. We also have the naira still very much pressured due to failed FX buffers. All of this you can find on the front page of Business AM. Moving over to the summary section now, Nigeria has least affordable internet. That's on page 5. The finance and investment section now, coronation projects sharp rate rise. We have this one in the insurance and business segment. Brokers can focus on strategies, and you can also catch some stories on agriculture on page 26. Nigeria's bell apple holds value. All of this and more you can find on Business AM this morning. I've got the publisher Business AM joining me for conversations, Philip Isapa. Good morning, Mr. Philip. It's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, good morning, Rachel. Nice to be here again.
Right. Nice to have you. All right. So the very first, the second headline on the cover page now, even though we are seeing oil prices going up, we're also seeing our external reserves declining. Why is that? Because, it shouldn't be the case. It begs the question of where our foreign earnings are actually going.
Okay. Rachel, this exactly drives home the point about diversification. You have a single mono economy where you get your major income, foreign exchange from just one product, which is crude oil. So no matter what is happening, it's not moving so fast in terms of we're having $100 per barrel at this stage. It's climbed recently, very fast, so to speak, from low of, I think there was a time it was down to maybe $10, $19 per barrel, so it has moved up quite well. Now, but in spite of that, you still have an economy, that speaks to the need for diversification, because if you have all of this is down to we are still an import dependent country, and it means that we're still importing quite a lot of stuff from outside, and we have to pay this down through the foreign exchange that we earn. And if we're not earning foreign exchange from a lot of sources, there's always going to be a limited amount of money that is coming in, despite oil prices going up. So the naira is pressured, like we have said in the story. A lot is being done to defend the naira, and that also comes from the foreign exchange reserves that we have. So defending the naira means that even if your earnings are, if price of crude oil is going up. Recall too, Rachel, that we have a new OPEC quota. Our quota was cut, the last time they had OPEC plus meetings, and so we aren't, the barrels that we're exporting isn't without a limit. So all of this they come together to create this what we have seen here, that despite oil prices going up for the average of $60, $58 to $60 in some cases, that this isn't reflecting, so experts are saying this is the time to really think through diversification thing.
Yeah.
The central bank has been fighting for quite a long time to see how this can be done through pushing for production of different items that can stop us from either importing, a lot of goods from outside, or to encourage things that can be exported out of the country, but it just goes to show that there's still a long way to go with regards to this development. It's early in the year, budget came out quite early. People, manufacturers and other importers were quick to get off the mark because there was no time to begin to think about what government policy in terms of the budget was going to be. So perhaps they have a lot of demand for perhaps raw materials, and other imported items that we do import. So that could probably be responsible for this. But the major one is that we are not diversified enough in terms of foreign exchange earnings, and that's really not good. You can put that down also to, you can attribute that also to the pandemic that is currently ravaging the world and having a slowdown in terms of economic activities locally.
Well, it's a good thing these numbers are coming out now. I mean, it's March. We're expecting the MPC to meet. And how much attention do you think they'll give to this data? How do you think it's going to influence the decisions that they will be making?
A lot of attention, is paid to this because there's quite a lot you do with stabilizing price in the economy. The forex reserve, because it suggests how the economy is buffered up in terms of the ability to import. For instance, there's the rule of the thumb that says you should have 7 months your reserves should cover 7 months of import. But the 2007, I think, CBN Act, does talk about 2 years coverage. So what we have now, the reserve can cover 7 months or even more, but it's not within the self, what Nigeria expects of itself. Have foreign exchange reserve that will cover for 2 years. But that notwithstanding, you still have a situation where, because you're still fighting inflation, you are still fighting a lot of indices in terms of the economy, that are not positive. You find that the MPC will look at this, and talk about buffers in terms of how can we have enough reserve. How can we manage the reserve situation so that it doesn't affect the naira exchange rate? There was an adjustment over the weekend. You recall, naira is now officially 410, thereabout, to the dollar. That was an adjustment that was made. And recall, Rachel, we talked about this some time ago when we said the CBN was going to stealthily, do this. It was going to do it gradually. It's trying to normalize the rates, across the different windows of the foreign exchange market that we have. The World Bank has talked about the need, the World Bank, IMF, and indeed local analysts here, and even manufacturers have talked about the need to have a one common rate, that helps them to work effectively and to understand the economy better. So the MPC is going to look at this falling. The rate at which it's falling, and try to see how they can factor all of that into this decision that they will be making regarding the monetary policy rates and the others.
We'll wait and see how it shapes their decision. Well, the rising insecurity on rural farmers and pastoralists is still topping the pages of papers, across Nigeria. That is one of the major issues facing the country at this point. And we can see on page 6 of your paper, there happens to be an opinion piece on this particular subject. Any developments?
You can look at that, Rachel, from 2 angles. You can be looking at it in terms of the economics, of it, and then you can look at it in terms of all the political noise that that you find going about, in the country, but you and I know that our focus here is to look at economics, and African Business Radio, I'm sure, with Business AM, would like to always like to dig into what the numbers are saying.
Right.
So we talk about pastoralists and headers, clashing, and then we look at food production, I think we did mention something like this last week, looking at the food production belt, and then we see this coming down to the south. Recall, Rachel, we have followed the inflation numbers for quite some time. We followed the inflation numbers for some months now. And what do we find? Inflation is driven, a great deal by food costs related items, And what are we talking about? We're talking about the fact that production has been going down, across different food production belts because of this problem, and that is really the key, the crucial issue with regards to this relationship between pastoralists and farmers. It's still affecting food prices. Last inflation that came out, talked about the food situation or the food crisis. Yeah. So we have that as something influencing inflation rate, but we also have it in terms of hunger. Food isn't available, and it looks like if with this continuing, we're still going to have food shortages. We had a situation where the federal government had to import, borrow. Remember we borrowed grain from ECOWAS.
Yes.
A part of it as a result of the clashes that do not allow food production or farmers to carry out their activities of farming. Part of it as a result of weather conditions. But what you can control, like they say, it's best to get on top of those things that you can control. This issue needs to be resolved. The relationship between herders and farmers, there has to be a way to deal with this, especially with regards to modern times. What do great countries who have similar situations of having pastoralists and farmers do? Where can we borrow a leaf from? Across Africa, there are things happening in terms of how these things are handled. Globally, there are ways that people have handled these issues, that have resulted in benefit for those countries. We need to find a way around it so that we can prevent hunger. We can prevent food related inflation situations. That make price stability a challenge for the economy.
Indeed. All right, it's a long week ahead, and we have a lot of developing stories. Any other headline in particular readers should pay attention to?
I think they will go. I would suggest that they look at pages 30 and 31. There's an interesting thing. It's a soft story. It will appear. But we talk about what we can do as a country to diversify the economy and earn foreign exchange. And there's something the travel and tours market. Talks about a global economy that is creating 200 that has 298 jobs. And what the 7.6 trillion naira beach driven travels and tours market. Nigeria should be looking at areas where they can harness the opportunities that they have or that the country has. So this one is talking about the beach, the global beach market. And we're talking about it's 7.6 trillion. Nigeria should be having a bite of that, across, because you have a coastline that is very long, which means you can tap into this, the private sector, government developing the enabling environment for these things to thrive, and then the private sector, allowing the private sector to go in, and instead of destroying the beachfronts with a lot of property development all over the place. They should be thinking about how to develop it in terms of earning foreign exchange.
Right.
This story stems from a global survey, that lists out different beaches across the world with numbered 1 to 25. Nigeria isn't listed, but we have, I think, one. Is it Tanzania? Yeah, Tanzania, is listed. Is the best. There's a beach there that is the best, and it's about tourists coming from all over the world, and spending their dollars, and that's how you earn some foreign exchange. Similar to what we have with what you call diaspora funding. This money that is sent to people to people across the country. So there's a lot of opportunities. Nigeria just needs to look deep. Just the same thing we talk about apples. There's the story on agriculture about the bell apple that Nigeria has. There needs to be a focus on things like this. Look, be creative and be imaginative in terms of areas that you need to look out for in terms of generating foreign exchange, and then diversifying the economy in such a way that everybody is happy, government is happy, and then life goes on.
Right, and I can't ignore this, how it's coined here, the bullet headline: Nigerian bitches gone, neglected, abandoned, below reckoning. Well, I do hope, something can still be done, and maybe we'll be cashing out from this aspect of, our rich endowment here in Nigeria, talking about tourism.
You see the main picture of the story, it's one of the coconut beach in Badagry.
Yes.
You feel like jumping from wherever you are. But these are things that are being wasted. You need to Nigeria needs to create the environment, and that's the other thing about the stiffness, of not just economy being hard on people, but the fact that leisure, is a lot of leisure opportunities, is lacking, for people. You should create things to ease the tension that is all over the place, and this is one of the. If at least foreign tourists aren't coming, the local people should be able to have places to go to spend their domestic currency, the naira, to boost earnings. At least tax receipts can come from that.
I can't disagree with you on this one, Mr. Philip. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this morning. I'm hoping that we'll get back to you on Friday so we can look at development stories for the week.
Thank you very much, Rachel, for having me. Have a great day.
You too. And that was Philip Isakwa, the publisher, Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and a business newspaper,